Council has yet to confirm the hybrid application of 2719. As weeks and months go by, this situation leaves the current financial arrangement in place plagued by significant funding shortfalls that force us collectively to face the possibility of not being able to cover the costs of the AU mission. Yet, as we all know, AUSOM remains indispensable for peace and security in Somalia. So I urge UN Security Council members and financing partners to continue their efforts to reach an acceptable resolution on the AUSOM financing and to secure the necessary resources for the mission. The African Union and the United Nations at the highest levels also continue to engage in advocacy to secure funding for AUSOM, as was also briefed by Commissioner Van Cole. Again, without predictable and sustainable funding in place, AUSOM's future may be jeopardized, potentially leading to a security vacuum and the reversal of hard-earned security gains. In closing, let us honor the courage and dedication of the Somali and African Union troops, police, and their families. Their service and sacrifice continue to support the Somali people's efforts in shaping a peaceful and stable future. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General, and for your kind remarks. I now want to invite the Assistant Secretary General and Head of United Nations Support Office in Somalia, Madam Aisha Kachira Chirabo. I hope I got the name right.
Yes, Honorable Minister, it's Aisha, not Aisha.
Okay.
But that's a slight amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister of Defense of Uganda, and Honorable Ministers of the troop contributing countries, my colleague and team leader, SRSG, distinguished international partners, members of the AU present. Good morning to you all. I first of all would like to thank you very much for allowing me to make a few remarks on behalf of UNSOS at this ministerial session. And I join my colleague in thanking the government of Uganda for hosting us so graciously. For me, this is the second time. The first time I was here, I was less than a month old in office, and it was almost, huge. It was a really huge task. I want to thank you so much for your collaboration and support since that time. As head of UNSOS, we've been able to support you because of the outstanding collaboration between us, AU, the TCCs, and the government of Somalia. And that, for me, has been a big inspiration. I want in the same way to salute the troops and leadership of the AUSOM, formerly ATMIS TCCs, for the great strides that have been made and sacrifices towards building peace in Somalia, and for enabling us all to achieve the AU Peace and Security Council and UN Security Council mandated tasks over the years. I also wish to commend and sincerely appreciate the commitment and sacrifice of the Somali security forces and leadership of Somalia in this fight against terrorism and ensuring security transition. And as I said, the tripartite collaboration we enjoy on ground, not only at a strategic level, but importantly at operational level, has enabled us to give our support logistically in this complex environment and be able to achieve our results. I find it maybe hard not to repeat many things that were said, but I'll try to summarize because listening to the various speakers, we are all in agreement on a number of things, on many things, but I just wanted to highlight a few regarding our work as UNSOS. As you'll recall, UNSOS was mandated in 2022 by the Security Council Resolution 2628 to support ATMIS transition and drawdown. And at that time, we're expected to support a drawdown of 7,000 troops. I want to thank you again for the support and collaboration and that enabled us to support this process, which took quite a lot of logistical support in order to facilitate this transition to be smooth of 7,000 troops and support the drawdown of 21 forward operating bases being handed over to Somali security forces and 3 of them being closed. And all this was done, and finally we still have an ongoing transition process with relative safety. So we want to thank you so much for that. Secondly, while we did that, there was capacity building that we did in close collaboration with the then ATMIS to support Somali security forces with logistics and also with skills training. And that we're still committed to ensure that one time when we leave behind a legacy of continuity and sustainability. And we're committed to doing that. So in this regard, especially given the fact that I think most of the speakers talked about, understandably, and really we're in full agreement on financing, on our part as UNSOS, we just want to assure you that every single day we explore and work out ways in which we can be more efficient, more effective, and also accountable. And we've shared our results with all stakeholders. I'm glad, and has been mentioned, the recent independent strategic review that was co-led by AU and the UN came and spent 10 days in Mogadishu. They engaged us, and consultatively we opened our books and we shared everything together with AU-SOM, sharing with them what we are doing, how much it costs, and what the impact would be. And then finally, what could we do to mitigate, understanding that we still need to look for these efficiencies in order to be able to support a sustainable contribution to the stipends of AU-SOM. I'm hopeful that out of this consultative process, they will form a backbone, a foundation that will help us to move forward constructively. I think the rest of the process has been very well covered by SRSG Jim. On our part, as UNSOS, we're ready to continue supporting by availing you all that information and being part of that process of continuous learning. Finally, I want to emphasize one point that we'll continue to need from you, especially AU-SOM, to contributing countries and the AU. Our ability to support and serve is dependent upon your support in ensuring the security of our teams. You have done your very best. It continues to be complex. I just wanted to emphasize that we'll continue to depend on you on that. And secondly, also, we look forward to getting timely information from your part, because sometimes when there are delays, it becomes a bit of a problem for us, because logistics, as you can imagine, needs time. So I would really appeal that one of the areas that you consider in these deliberations is that timely sharing of information, and also giving us time to plan and be able to deliver in expected, at least realistic timelines. I think I'll just conclude by again reassuring you that we are here to serve you to the best of our ability, and we're very already proud on what we're able to be doing given the circumstances that we live in. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, and especially for those reassurances. We can only access UN through the two of you. So we have the UN in the house. So I think we appreciate all what you're doing. And now let us invite the IGAD representative here to make remarks.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Minister of Defense in the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense from the troop contributing countries, His Excellency the Chair of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies the Ambassadors, representatives of the United Nations Transition Assistance Mission in Somalia, and the United Nations Support Office, the 4th Commander in SOM, Chiefs of Defense Forces, development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished delegates, all protocol duly observed. Representing the Executive Secretary of IGAD, Dr. Wokene Gebeyehu, who will be joining us this afternoon, allow me to read his statement. I have the privilege of addressing you today, not as the Executive Secretary of IGAD, but as a fellow citizen of our troubled region. First and foremost, allow me to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and the warm people of Uganda for welcoming us to this beautiful country at such critical moment for Somalia's future. Similarly, I wish to equally pay homage to President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud for significant political gains and strong efforts that the government of the Republic of Somalia and the Somalia security forces continue to deploy despite the challenges being encountered. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here at a time when our regional security faces its toughest test in decades, IGAD has never been stretched so thin by the multiple conflicts in the region. For the past 2 years, just as we are recovering from the global pandemic, IGAD has been continuously visiting and engaging the conflict and insecurity-affected parts of our region. And it is what I have witnessed so far that compels me to speak with urgency today. The security situation has deteriorated in ways that deeply concern all of us, and with particular regard to this summit, and those who have invested so much in Somalia's journey towards peace. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Al-Shabaab's offense throughout the early months of 2025 has undermined much of what we've accomplished together. Notwithstanding, our brave troops are nevertheless resolved to hold the line against the terrorists. Our courageous men and women in uniform are steadfastly defending their positions, even though the supplies lines are severely stretched. The situation affects the essence of what AWSOM faces today. The mission that began on New Year's Day under AWSOM Resolution 2767 inherited not just ATMIS mandate, but also a funding shortfall of $96 million. Ladies and gentlemen, and your Excellencies, when only 75% of our budget is secured exclusively from UN-assessed contributions, commanders in the field face impossible choices about fuel, ammunition, and even basic necessities. Your Excellencies, brothers and sisters, I must acknowledge the timely and comprehensive recommendations from the permanent secretaries and senior officials meeting of troop contributing countries to AMSOM, plus the Federal Republic of Somalia, which concluded on 23rd April, which is yesterday. I wish to remiss if I didn't acknowledge the tremendous contribution of troop contributing countries. Our forces operate in the most contested areas and they need our collective support. IGAD calls on all troop contributing countries to consider how we might supplement AWSOM operations with additional logistic resources. Great emphasis must be placed on the need for joint contingency planning for when, not if, supply lines are disrupted. IGAD is committed to action. My team stands ready to facilitate the coordination between our member states to streamline cross-border operations. We are ready to further mobilize and avail technical experts to assist in the development of the strategic roadmap. And we are prepared to support the peer review mechanism for oversight, accountability, coordination, monitoring, and evaluation with both personnel and financial resources. I was in Mogadishu 90 days before ATMIS transition to AWSOM, and I remember that the overwhelming sentiment was that our people are not primarily concerned with what the mission is called. They care more that keeps our children and our families safe. This is a strong reminder that behind all our diplomatic discussions and military strategies are real lives that are depending on our decisions today. The investments required are substantial, and I know that. But as I look at the human cost of failure, the refugee camps, the abandoned hospitals, and the empty schools, I'm convinced that these investments are essential. And in line with the recommendations from the permanent secretaries and senior officials meeting, we must address operational shortfalls through adequate, sustainable, and predictable funding. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to expedite the establishment of the troop contributing countries plus Somalia peer review mechanism supported by the African Union Commission and consider utilizing additional resources from the African Union Peace Fund to address the current financial constraints facing ALSOM. From the outcomes of the Permanent Secretaries and senior officials meeting, I'm convinced that we are here not just to read the prepared statements, but to look at each other in the eye and collectively say that we can and we must do better. Somalia's stability and our regional security depend on it. IGAD stands with you and is ready to work hand in hand until our shared vision of a secured Somalia in 2029 becomes a reality. And as I conclude, I wish to thank you all for your attention and more importantly for your renewed commitment to this vital cause, and I look forward to fruitful deliberations on efforts to stabilize Somalia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, IGAD. And I want to take the opportunity to invite our very strategic partners, beginning with the United Kingdom. British High Commissioner to Uganda will give our remarks. Your Excellency, you're welcome.
Thank you, Honourable Minister of Defence of Uganda. Chairperson of the AU, Honourable Ministers of Defence and Foreign Affairs, Permanent Secretaries, Excellencies, Heads of Delegation, Force Commanders, Chief of Defence Staff, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand on existing protocol. I welcome this significant initiative to bring troop contributing countries of the African Union mission in Somalia. And let me open perhaps by commending Uganda for its role, not just in hosting the summit together with Somalia, but also its ongoing dedication to Somalia's security, which I had the opportunity to witness firsthand when Deputy Ambassador in Mogadishu back in 2013-2014. As the UK reopened its embassy in Mogadishu, it was the competency of the UPDF in Sector 1 and, of course, the wider AMISOM at the time mission that made it possible for us and many others to operate. I'd like to express the UK's firm support for the African Union mission, both its leadership and troop contributing countries, and recognise the sacrifices, as many speakers already have done, that members have made and the Somali security forces and continue to make. I think the presence today of such a breadth of senior representatives in this room demonstrates the dedication and the commitment still focused on tackling Al-Shabaab. And this presence also underlines that tackling Al-Shabaab is an issue that countries across the region and world beyond should care about, as so many speakers, particularly our honourable Somali ministers, have set out so vividly today. This is a shared problem, and any shared problem needs a shared solution. From a UK perspective, we have been and we remain in it for the long haul. As well as being the largest contributor to the UNSOS Trust Fund, as well as year-on-year increases since 2021 to our voluntary contributions, the UK's worked alongside troop contributing countries like Uganda on pre-deployment training, and we're a committed partner in the UN. Now, I know that within this room we've talked a lot about the funding gap, and it's real. But within this room, I think we're committed to finding a sustainable funding model for the mission within the UNSC. Within this room, we all know that this is not a quick fix, and that burden sharing and additional donors will be key. And we know in this room that to do that and to make that happen, it will require a clear and detailed budget to support these vital conversations. So I'd like to encourage all summit participants to make the most of this opportunity to iron out the remaining issues related to the composition, the laydown and the financing of the mission. And as the risks reach higher levels than we've seen for several years, the security situation demands a resolution of these questions at pace, however difficult, and I'm acutely aware of how difficult this is. Having been engaged as the UK on discussions on eventual exit strategy and long-term planning way back in 2013 and 2014, I've seen that particularly in today's global conflict context, that the solution of this shared problem can't alone be do more. It also needs to be do differently. And there's an important responsibility for everybody in the room. A united response is really the only way to sustainably counter the Al-Shabaab threat. This will require military and political action. This will require staying power amongst Somalia's regional and international partners. This will require continued effort and dedication, as we heard, from UNSOS or IGAD on efficiency and accountability. And this will require political dialogue among Somalia's elites, political elites. We know this is vital. Confrontation amongst Somalia's political elites risks creating further opportunities for Al-Shabaab. So let me close just by saying this summit is a vital step in demonstrating that united front that matters more than ever, in showcasing our collective commitment to Somalia's stability. I wish working towards the shared solution. Thank you again, Honourable Minister of Defence, and to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Uganda for convening this important event.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the British High Commissioner to Uganda. And now we have an opportunity to listen to remarks from our another strategic partner, the U.S. Ambassador to Uganda, representing the U.S. here. Your Excellency, the U.S. Ambassador to Uganda, you're welcome.
Thank you, Honourable Minister of Defence Oboth, and all Ministers of Defence present. Thank you as well to Permanent Secretary Bagiri, and I want to recognize all the Ministers of Foreign Affairs present, the Chairman of the African Union Commission, Chiefs of Defence present, all representatives of Djibouti, Egypt, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, representatives of AWESOM and the Force Commander, representatives of the United Nations and the African Union and IGAD, my fellow colleague ambassadors and high commissioners, all protocols observed. It is an honor to attend this important gathering and to provide a brief overview of the United States' position on the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia. On behalf of the United States, I extend my thanks to the government of Uganda for hosting this very important ministerial and vital discussions. Let me begin by expressing our strong continuing support for the AWESOM mission. The administration of President Trump is clear that violent extremism represents a vital threat to the United States, and we will continue to partner with nations who share that view. We recognize and appreciate that all troop contributing countries have borne the heavy costs and made tremendous sacrifices in aiding and enhancing the security of Somalia and in ensuring that terrorists do not destabilize the peace, security, and economic interests of the people of East Africa. All the efforts by the TCCs, the United States, and other partners, all present here, are important not only to Somalia's stability and security, but also to the security of the region. Since President Trump's inauguration in January, the United States military has conducted multiple strategic strikes against Al-Shabaab and other terrorists in support of Somalia and African Union partners. While these strikes have been targeted and effective, we recognize that alone they will not defeat Al-Shabaab or ensure lasting peace in Somalia. The security of Somalia will continue to require a strong and effective Somali National Army and other Somali security forces, supported by well-resourced troops from contributing countries on the ground. To that end, and in support of the TCCs on the ground, the United States makes substantial contributions to the Somalia mission, paying fully 25% of UN-assessed contributions to the UN Support Office in Somalia. Since Uganda and other countries first answered Somalia's call for help in 2007, the United States has contributed more than $1.6 billion in support for individual TCCs and another $1.9 billion for assessed contributions to UNSOS and its predecessor. This is in addition, of course, to billions of dollars of other bilateral assistance we have provided to Somalia over many years, including hundreds of millions of dollars of additional direct bilateral military support to the Somalia National Army and Somalia security forces, as well as billions in humanitarian relief programs. Attention to troop generation, as mentioned throughout this morning, is very important and timely. Battlefield reversals against al-Shabaab during the past year demonstrate the urgency of improving the capability of Somalia's security forces. Better cooperation and improved practices are essential to realize our common goal of a more capable SNA forces. We welcome the discussion about the awesome concept of operations and future planning. It is vital that we take advantage of this transition year of 2025 to ensure the force is best postured and sufficiently resourced to meet its goals of protecting vital strategic locations and critical infrastructure. We recognize that important progress has been made, but also that key operational strategic issues are still under review. Securing adequate and predictable funding for AWESOM is also critical, and we support efforts to ensure that the troops on the ground are taken care of and can do essential work necessary to ensure the safety and security in Somalia. However, it is important here to note that the United States position on AWESOM financing remains the same as it has been over the past year. The United States will not support the application of UNSCR 2719 framework to AWESOM, as we do not believe Somalia is the right context for this first application. We will also not support the hybrid model of the 2719 framework, as we believe it undercuts the spirit and intent of the resolution. It is important to note that this does not reflect a lack of commitment to AWESOM or the security of Somalia or the region as a whole. On the contrary, we want to continue to work with the AU and other key stakeholders, including potentially new contributors, to identify funds necessary to meet AWESOM's requirements, and we would welcome a donors conference to do so. While we do not support the use of UNSCR 2719 in Somalia, the United States does recognize the need to address expected budgetary shortfalls and to finalize the details of the concept of operation, and to do so immediately. We know all too well that al-Shabaab has repeatedly demonstrated the capacity and the ability to exploit operation shortfalls, as well as gaps in coordination and communication. In closing, it is important to underscore the United States has long been and will continue to be a supporter of peace in Somalia. To this end, we stand ready to work with all the TCCs, all the partners present here, to work together for Somalia's stability and to eliminate terrorist threats that endanger global security and trade. The United States once again thanks the government of Uganda for hosting this important summit. We recognize and honor the heroes from the TCC armed forces who have made the ultimate sacrifice, and we reiterate the United States' interest in working with all partners present to support a future of peace and stability in Somalia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the U.S. Ambassador to Uganda. And now we take the privilege to invite the head of the European Union delegation to Uganda. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and I recognize in his absence His Excellency the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and I recognize in his presence Honourable Obote Bot and all other Honourable Ministers from the region, Permanent Secretary Vincent Bagire, and all permanent secretaries and senior officials of the region and of the African Union Commission, of the United Nations and of IGAD, fellow ambassadors and high commissioners. Excellencies, partners and friends of Somalia, I would like to thank the leadership of President Museveni and President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud for bringing us together here in Kampala. At this pivotal moment for Somalia and for the wider region, it's a privilege to represent the European Union today and to join with partners as we work together to deliver the peace and stability that the people of the region deserve. The European Union is a long-term committed partner to Somalia. Somalia represents the EU's most substantial peace and security engagement on the continent. Let there be no doubt, Somalia and the wider Horn of Africa are of vital importance to the European Union and its member states. The EU's partnership with Somalia is stronger than ever, underpinned by our joint operational roadmap, which identifies shared priorities such as inclusive politics, security, and socio-economic development. That commitment is clear. Since 2007, we have invested over 4.3 billion euros in Somalia's stability, including through sustained support to African Union-led peace operations, such as ATMIS and its predecessor, AMISOM. The support we provide to our partner Somalia is comprehensive, spanning common security and defense policy missions, direct bilateral support to the Somali National Army, development cooperation under the Global Gateway, budgetary assistance, and humanitarian aid. We also recognize that strengthening Somali security forces is critical to long-term peace. As ATMIS transitions, we have significantly increased our bilateral support to Somalia's security sector with 5 packages since 2019, totaling 110 million euros. Our partnership is clearly bearing fruit. Somalia has made tangible gains. The establishment of federal institutions, peaceful transfers of power, and meaningful progress toward assuming full responsibility for national security. However, serious challenges remain, not least the persistent threat posed by Al-Shabaab to the stability of Somalia and the region. To secure the lasting peace we all desire, Somalia must build a unified national political front, implement an agreed national security architecture, and strengthen regional cooperation. Excellencies, honorables, ladies and gentlemen, the European Union welcomes the adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution 2767, which endorses the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, AUSOM. We pay tribute, as many others here, to the sacrifices made by African Union troops since 2007. Without them, the progress we see today would not have been possible. Our task now is to ensure adequate, predictable and sustainable financing for AUSOM, and to continue investing in a political settlement that delivers long-term peace. The question of funding is critical. However complex the path, we must recognize that new thinking and arrangements are needed. This is why we believe the hybrid implementation of Resolution 2719 is the only viable pathway to sustainable and predictable funding for AUSOM. And we echo the call of the African Union, the UN Secretary General, and the Security Council for its implementation. The European Union member states already contribute to 1/4 of all UN-assessed contributions. In this regard, we welcome the strategic review of the UN Support Office in Somalia and look forward to the reports detailing progress made in preparation for the implementation of Resolution 2719, as requested under Resolution 2767. These are key steps in ensuring that 2719 can be implemented effectively within the restructured resources of UNSOS. Excellencies, honorables, ladies and gentlemen, let there be no doubt the European Union remains firmly committed to Somalia and to regional stability. Over the past 2 decades, we have been the largest financial contributor to AU peace support missions in Somalia. We continue to be open to contributing financially to AUSOM alongside other partners based on shared responsibility and fairer burden sharing between long-standing and new donors. We will continue working hand in hand with Somalia and partners to build a comprehensive and sustainable internal security architecture. In closing, let me underline that the European Union has been and remains a steadfast, reliable and predictable partner. As Somalia enters this next phase, we call on all partners to support this vital transition. Somalia's security is our shared security, particularly in safeguarding the Horn of Africa's stability. We encourage Somalia and its neighbors to continue working together in a spirit of cooperation and solidarity. The EU stands with the region. We have walked this path together for decades, and as you turn the page to a new chapter, you can count on our continued partnership. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the head of EU delegation to Uganda. And now, if you have a copy of the draft program, with your leave, I'm happy to announce that we've saved some time. And therefore, we are going to ask for the presentation of the senior officials' report and consideration of the recommendations. We should be a closed session, and then within that time we shall be able to conclude that. Then we have a break for lunch and other administrative announcements that will be made by our next session presenter, the PS. I'm advised that this will be, I don't know how they conduct a closed session in this kind of, I'm a very open person. Now being asked to say we have a closed session, I don't know how closed. So can I ask the PS Foreign Affairs to do the whipping, because I'm afraid I'm too open.
Chair, thank you very much. The session is so closed that it is not open. But allow me to thank all our presenters this morning and also to request that in preparation for the closed session, the closed session is for the troop contributing countries and Somalia, of course. So we shall request the media, and I hope that is the last shot that you're taking over there, the media to take leave, and I'll request.
This week on UBC.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni
Also, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces has been emphasizing building of a strong professional army, a self-sustaining economy, and empowering Ugandans with skills for wealth creation.
As you are aware, since 2021, the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Republic of Uganda gave a directive that government works, especially infrastructure development, fully funded by government,